College football week 17. That's my Carter impression there. We're joined with Jordan Maxon, Coach Maxon from Ohio Sports Talk. Jordan, thanks for being with us. It's college football playoff time.
Yes, we finally made it, folks. Definitely appreciate being here. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. Very excited to talk this with you guys, and we kind of touched on it before we went live here. We don't have to wait forever.
My gosh.
We're jumping right into it. It's going to be the presidential poll this weekend, and then we're going to dive right into the playoffs. So I'm very excited to be here and talk the new CFB format with you guys, talk a little bit of Ohio State, and we'll dive in.
Real quick,
Carter,
Dylan, I need to butt in here. So it's Jordan, correct? Right?
Yes,
Jordan.
sir.
So there's no way I'm calling you Jordan. If I ever see Coach in front of someone's name and you put your name as Coach in the Riverside or the Zoom audio, it's Coach. Because it's like when they talk about like President Bush, President Trump, President Clinton. Like you're always president. Once you're Coach, you're never not Coach. So, Coach, pleasure to have you on.
It's a good point.
Thank
Coach.
you, guys.
There we go. We'll address you as Coach moving forward. Now, obviously, by the garb, Ohio State fan. You get the 8 seed. You play Tennessee in the first round. If you win, you have Oregon on deck. What are your initial thoughts on this game? How do you think you're going to fare against Tennessee? And then what's the feeling about getting to play a home game in the playoffs, which is very important?
Getting to play a home game in the playoffs for me was just very important. I know our performance at home against Michigan wouldn't resonate that at the current state and time, but right now it's very important. You look at, and we kind of discussed a little bit offline, you look at Tennessee's record on the road is 2-2. That's the only thing they've struggled. They were unbeaten at home. They were 1-0 at a neutral site. So bringing Tennessee in at a home game where, Ohio State's never played a home game for a playoff atmosphere. So that kind of changes the intensity of the fan base that's arriving there too. So I think, it's nighttime. They haven't announced anything if it's going to be a blackout game yet, or if it's going to be what the theme is going in. I think the jerseys were kind of discussed. Maybe we're going to play the jersey style that we played against Georgia a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. But, I'm excited. The home game is definitely, at least in round one, is grave importance. So I thought the seedings could have went either way. I thought we could have been at Tennessee, or Tennessee could have been here. Was kind of the buzz around the local media in Ohio. We were always kind of guessing Tennessee the minute the clock turned zeros against Michigan. Try to wash that, bad taste of it in our mouth. We started looking ahead, like, all right, what would be the next scenario? And, Tennessee was pretty much all across the guessing board. So the fact that we landed them at home is of grave importance. Now, you guys kind of outside looking in, not the diehard Ohio fan base, how do you guys feel about it? Because I want to resonate that question with both of you.
Carter, why don't you go? Because I'm a Michigan fan, but and you're going to say, oh, this is fake, but Tennessee is my number 2 team. My mom went to school at Belmont down in Nashville, so Michigan's always been number 1. But I'm a fan of Tennessee. I'll cheer them on too. So I'm a little biased. I'll let Carter.
Wait, that doesn't let you get to be a Tennessee fan. You got to be a Bruin.
Well, they don't have a football team. What am I supposed to do? Vanderbilt's a rival of Belmont in basketball. I'm not doing that.
I mean, when you guys made your run, would you not root for the Big Ten as a conference? Would you not lock in Indiana? Would you not lock in Ohio State? Would you not lock in any of the outside Big Ten teams being a Michigan fan?
Coach, we don't have to get into it too much, but I don't want Ohio State winning anything. Now, Indiana or
that's why I said it doesn't have to be Ohio State. But
yeah,
you can lock into your conference.
Yeah, any other Big Ten team except for Ohio State, I would root for. But Ohio, I draw the line there, except for this year. And again, we don't have to get into the semantics, but Coach, you better believe if you guys win a national championship, I'm claiming back to back. That's just how it's going to work.
Wait, if Ohio State wins?
If Ohio State wins a national championship, I will claim back-to-back national championships.
Okay, but what about
Michigan?
What about if another Big Ten team wins?
Indiana, I can't. We didn't beat Indiana.
Okay.
Or Penn State, we didn't play Penn State. So it's tough situation.
Like in Oregon.
Yeah, can't claim for Oregon either. No. I've been on the Oregon train. I might claim that one just for fun, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Carter, thoughts on the matchup, the Ohio State-Tennessee?
I love it. I just can't believe the spread is as high as it is. I mean, I'm seeing 6.5, 7-point spreads around the different sports books right now, and that leads you to believe that, one, these books love Ohio State. Though, Vegas, the odds makers, they love Ohio State every which way. I mean, I think on a neutral field, Ohio State might be favored against everybody in the country at this point. Yeah. I think it also speaks to they don't believe in Nico in this game.
No, absolutely not. Coach and I talked about that off the air. It's like coming into a situation like this where you're playing in an away playoff game. Coach already talked about how bad Tennessee's been on the road, 0-2, with the loss to Arkansas. It's like you kind of see why, even with that loss to Michigan, and I'll be the first one to say, on paper, Ohio State outplayed Michigan. It was a couple missed field goals here and there, but Ohio State was obviously, and they are the better team. And that probably is why I think the spread's this high. The one thing I want to point out here is the defense versus defense. Ohio State, again, on paper, a great defense. They're like third in EPA per pass, 18th in EPA per rush allowed, like really good stuff. And Tennessee's defense is just as good, which as a Big Ten low-scoring under kind of guy, I'm personally very excited to see play out. So we'll see. It's going to be a slugfest. I did want to ask, Coach, this is I promise we didn't bring you on for gotcha journalism. This is a serious question. A lot of talk after the Michigan game has been about Ryan Day's employment as head coach of Ohio State. How do you think this plays into the playoff scenario? Is his job secure no matter what? Does he have to win a national championship? Because I will say, I have always been, even with Harbaugh, when we couldn't beat Ohio State however many years ago, I just give the guy time. You got 10-win seasons. Mississippi State would kill for a 10-win season. So, but specifically this year has gone on, you had some interesting. The end of the Oregon game left a bad taste in some people's mouths. You have the loss to Michigan. What is it going to take for Ohio State in terms of a playoff run, and for Ryan Day specifically, to keep his job or make Ohio State fans feel comfortable with him keeping his job?
Oh, it's championship or bust. And I've been saying this since July on my show over on Ohio Sports Talk. It is 110% championship or bust. We sprinkled in the Michigan win when I made that statement, but overall, because I predicted that we would struggle against Michigan, but I honestly thought we would handle Oregon. Oregon had some coaching issues there at the end between quarterback communication, but you got to give them their props. The onside kick really turned the game around for that. But
Lanning's a dude. It's hard. Lanning's a very good coach.
No,
that's tough.
Without a doubt, just like the Michigan game, Ryan Day got out coached. So it's 110% championship or bust. And I agree with a lot of analysts right now that are over on ESPN. They said that, if he has a loss on one of these first two games, you fire him right on the field. And, if I'm Ohio State's athletic director, I 110% would, because, $20 million in NIL money, and this is the era that we live in. Would you feel comfortable as an athletic director going back to these same donors saying, I need another $20 million for 2025, 2026 season, even though we didn't produce the championship team that we kind of guaranteed behind it with all the returning seniors this year? So to go back to the donors, you would have to fire him. And that's just kind of the business side of what college football has become in a short time with NIL. You can't keep Ryan Day if you come off 3 losses and are all big time losses. Yeah, we handled Indiana. Yeah, we handled Penn State when they were ranked, and those teams are in the playoffs. But the games that we circled, Oregon and Michigan, were both losses, and it was both it came down to coaching issues. So not a talent issue. So if you're a donor, you're not going to give that same donation to keep these players on the field. So Ryan Day's got to go.
I want to specify. I just want to ask a clarifying question. You said national championship. Win the national championship or make it to the championship game?
No, win. It has to be a win. If Ryan Day wants to remain the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, it has to be a national championship win. It can't be an appearance, because he's already been in the playoffs.
Yeah,
he's already made appearances. The 50-yard field goal missed over in the Georgia game, but there was also coaching issues, because there was a point in the game where they were 10 points up. So, all these big games come down to, one fundamental thing. It's coaching, which is why we brought Chip Kelly in, so that Ryan Day can get out of his own way. And early in the season, he said, "Oh, after some bumps, he said I'll get out of his way." And I don't feel like he has. I feel like Chip Kelly's been kind of handcuffed because you look at the play calling on the big games that we've lost. It doesn't fit Chip Kelly's style, and it doesn't fit what we brought Chip Kelly in to do. Chip Kelly coaches from the team's strengths. And both losses this year, we tried to coach a totally different fundamental, which didn't go with Ohio State's flow. So Ryan Day's got to go. And if he does not win a championship or any of these losses in the early rounds, he's got to go.
It's interesting you bring up the NIL money because, Carter, you've hit that home too. You said it with $20 million, a $20 million roster, any of us could coach the Buckeyes to a 10-win season.
You would win 10 wins at Ohio State with $20 million. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when people sit there and go, oh, not everybody can do what Ryan Day does. I'll tell you what, there are hundreds of coaches throughout the sport of football and pro football and college football. If you gave them $20 million at Ohio State, they can win 10 wins a year. I don't know it's not this great accomplishment. That's why he's on the hot seat here. A couple things to unpack there. You mentioned the Chip Kelly thing and how he's not playing the way Chip Kelly wants, where they're playing the way Ryan Day wants. I think the Michigan game was the most evident example of that ever because Ryan Day, all offseason, every press conference, everything, he just talked about physicality, and they just wanted to ground and pound and run the ball, and that's how they wanted to beat Michigan at their own game, which wasn't the style that fell right into Michigan's plans. It's exactly what they wanted to do.
Yeah, but their strengths were their defensive tackles.
Exactly. Yeah. And they fell right into that. And it's this blanket stubbornness that has killed him throughout his career. The other point I want to mention is I like to call Ohio State fans out on that because if this guy goes out there and beats Tennessee, beats Oregon in the Rose Bowl, and then beats Texas and makes it to a title game, I think it would be very hard to fire him at that point, even though I agree at the moment it is natty or bust. But I think when we get there, let's say he loses on a last-second field goal in the title game, I don't think he gets fired after that.
But he's been there. So if the last-second field goal is going to be his loss, that's his ceiling. That's virtually what his record is going to say. My ceiling is that I'll get you to the game, I'll take you to the promised land, but I can't cross over.
Yep.
And, if you can't cross the Red Sea here at Ohio State and Columbus for a certain amount of time, you got to be out. I mean, you look at everybody that had, a stable record here at Ohio State. Jim Trussell was 9-1 against Michigan, national championship to his name. Urban Meyer damn near undefeated against Michigan, national championship to his name. And he handpicked Ryan Day. They did that little segment of the NCAA video games. He gets the controller. It's kind of a feel good, it's a Hollywood moment.
Yep.
And everybody, we go in gun ho. He's still got talent with Justin Fields. With Justin Fields and company, and we can't win. So it's just, and he has all the receiving power in the world too. I mean, look at the NFL over the last 3.5 years.
Coach, I looked back. I think it was the 21 roster. And
I said Fields. I meant Stroud. Correction.
For the 22 game, Stroud. 22 championship. Stroud.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud for the 22. All the marbles against Georgia. So
I looked back at that wide receiver room. I think it was from maybe 21. JSN, Olave, like just an absolutely studded wide. And I've always maintained that Ohio State, if you want to be a wide receiver in the NFL, you go to either LSU or Ohio State. That's where you go. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Carter, did you have something else? Did I cut you off?
No, not really. It was just more so. I think the other point that needs to be addressed here when you talk about Ryan Day and how it's natty or bust, I think another reason why it has to be national title or bust for this guy is this is the most winnable college football playoff I think there may have ever been, because nobody is at this top elite tier. There's no the Stetson Bennett Georgia teams. There's no 2020 Alabama. There's no 2019 LSU. Oregon undefeated. They're great. They're solid, but they've been vulnerable at times. Those teams just weren't even vulnerable. They were just good. I mean, I guess the Georgia team for that one, I guess against Ohio State, but I mean, you talk about Alabama and LSU. This year, I feel like every game, Ohio State, with the roster they have, the talent they have, there's no reason they shouldn't win every game in the playoff.
Is there any credence? And I don't like making excuses for Ohio State, but the Ohio State Tennessee combo, that's definitely the toughest draw out of any of the first round teams to play. Either Ohio State or Tennessee, conversely, to play Oregon, probably play Texas, which I guess we could have a conversation if we think Texas is legit or not. But there's no leeway there that the path to the national championship for Ohio State is probably the toughest. Got to have it, Coach. Got to have the
Coach
natty.
Take this one.
I feel like our path is toughest if you're outside looking in because we've already played Oregon. So
Yeah, that's
there's
true.
a familiarity. If we get through the hurdle, which is Tennessee, and we play Oregon, that's a second rematch. So I think there's some toughness there because the two teams are going to know each other.
Mhm.
That's a team we were looking at that game all year long. So, I'm sure the scout team, even though we were playing like teams like Northwestern and stuff like that, we're still kind of implementing what Oregon and the offense and all that stuff brought to the table. So
For sure.
I'm sure that's going to be tough, but that's going to be, that's a kind of a two-way road. They skate by a point. So, it's going to be tough for them to beat us 2 times because we know in the pros it's hard to win, back-to-back games.
Yeah.
But especially on the college level, when you're not used to playing a team back-to-back. And even the same, you look at 2.5 months, maybe 3 months max apart. That's going to be interesting. But I think their road's a little bit harder, like you said, if they clear that hurdle and, Texas does what Texas need to do, being second in the SEC, it's going to be a tough matchup. But, looking even at the Tennessee game, both Tennessee and Ohio State finished third in their respective conference. So this is kind of the matchup that it's right there. We're 2 losses, they're 2 losses. We're third in the Big Ten, they're third in the SEC. We have similar away records. It's going to be, it's going to be interesting.
For sure.
I'm ready for it. I think Ohio State has a little bit more in the run game when it comes to running back ability, just because the running back room is a little bit more split, where Tennessee is more of a cowbell. But
Yeah.
we'll get that here in our final segment when we hit home what we think about the game. But I think our road is a little bit more difficult than most teams, just because familiarity on the road and going through multiple SEC teams.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, let's go ahead and hear it. What do you think about the matchup, and then follow up with like a percentage chance that you guys can win it all? How you're feeling about winning it all?
You want me to go first, or you want to go around the table?
I think Carter and I are going to keep ours under wraps because we have a separate first round preview coming out. But we do want to hear what you have to say because this is your team for the matchup.
Okay, absolutely. I think Ohio State wins against Tennessee. But, I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. So, I'm looking at it.
Okay.
I like it.
I'm looking at a 35-32 victory, a 28-35 victory, Ohio State. I think both quarterbacks are going to come to play. I think this is going to be kind of Tennessee's quarterback's national coming out party, per se,
all right.
setting up for the future. I'm not taking anything away from my team from Ohio State, but Ohio State struggles. It's well known. It's been the defensive line. They've had struggles getting pressure, getting quarterback hits, even registering quarterback sacks all year long. So I think that theme kind of continues defensively. But I think Ohio State, they learned from their Michigan mistakes. We're going to play to our strengths, to our wide receivers, and I think it's just enough to push them past Tennessee in a nail biter. So give me that 35-28, 35-32 win, Ohio State. But, it's going to be, as Troy Owens said, grab your popcorn. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be everything as advertised. And, both conferences are going to feel good leaving.
Love it. I will say, you mentioned the Ohio State defensive line, the issues there. I will say Tennessee's offensive line, not great. Actually, I would say kind of bad. So that is something at least that goes into your favor. If you had to give a percentage chance of Ohio State winning the national championship, what would you give it right now?
I would go 65 to 70%.
All right.
Some of that's going to be based on health. I feel confident in them moving forward. They're going to play. They kind of showed, even though it was kind of showing your ass a little bit, but they showed emotion at the end of the Michigan game during that scramble, and maybe that's what they needed. Maybe that's what they needed, the wake up call. I feel like Ryan Day needed that wake up call. I feel like Jack Sawyer needed that wake up call. and maybe that resonates. You watch that tape over and over and over and over again the next day in practice when you see your mistakes and stuff like that. Even during the play time. So I think that resonates, and that's kind of the fire that's gonna really light them into the playoffs. So I give 65 to 70%. Injuries happen, so if they stay healthy, I lean more towards that 70% because things happen. I personally didn't think Will Howard, and that's a separate conversation, should have never finished that Michigan game.
Yeah, we had that
I don't know
conversation, Carter.
who the hell cleared him on that. I just spent a long time in the Marine Corps, and it felt like one of those things where like somebody was like, "Hey, you're good. Go back
in there.
Just ignore it. Your Navy doctor's telling you you're fine. You're fine. Here's some Motrin, change your socks, drink some water, and get the hell back out there." I feel like he got that treatment 110%. If that was a regular season game, I don't think he finishes that. If there's a game that next day, in the regular season, 2 to 3 weeks prior, Howard doesn't finish that game, and nobody can tell me anything to convince me otherwise. I feel like they put too many chips in that barrel, but at the end of the day, he got out coached. I'm not making excuses. Ohio State was not the better team that day, but 65, 70% chances of winning it all. I like our matchups. I like if we don't get caught peeking at Oregon, late in that Tennessee game, I think they're going to be fine.
I love it. I was telling myself watching that, there's no way they're letting Devin Brown play this game. There's no way they're letting Devin Brown finish.
But he
this
hit the
game.
transfer portal this morning.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
It's going to be between Julian Sain and Aaron Nolan moving forward.
Aaron Nolan, all-time quarterback name.
Yeah,
All-time
Devin
quarterback.
Brown. I've already got some info on that guy, so we can talk about that off air.
Ooh,
So-
Insider Carter. All right. So, Coach, let's take betting odds out of it. Take off the Ohio State cap. Look at the bracket from a 50,000-foot view. Who do you think's winning the national championship?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the rematch. I think it's going to be Georgia, Ohio State, and Ohio State gets their revenge.
Wow.
Even
Okay.
Georgia with or without Carson Beck?
I'm reading without because he's not going to be eligible to play in the first round. And if anybody has any knowledge on coaching, if they have momentum, you don't switch it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not,
I don't think it
taking
matters.
anything away from the young man. But Georgia's always been kind of a system. You look at Stetson, you look at guys that hung around there for such a long time. They're still well coached. It's a great organization. I feel like you can throw any quarterback in there and it'll be a well organized machine. I'm not saying their quarterbacks aren't talented. I'm just saying you don't have to be the best quarterback to go to Georgia to be successful.
And
I
Kirby
love
motivates the guys. He always finds some way to get them going.
Oh,
Or saying
absolutely.
people are doubting them, all that stuff. So, okay, so Ohio State beating Georgia in the championship. Now, let's say you were to pick one team that does not win the championship. If you had to pick one team that doesn't win, who would you pick?
Like a first round exit, or how do you want to word that?
Whatever
Guaranteed that they will not win the national title.
Yes. So
Oh,
it could be first
I'm
round.
gonna go 110% Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame has a shot in hell.
I'm going to give a little
I-
preview here. I think they lose first round. I think Indiana takes care of them. Yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
I agree.
Coach.
I agree. I agree with Dylan. I really do.
So you're telling me SMU has a better shot than Notre Dame in your eyes?
Yes.
They get to play small. Oh, my mind just came unplugged. They get to play small game James.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, come on now.
I'm not impressed with SMU's first opponent going forward. So.
Okay, I love it.
That's
I
interesting.
think
Notre
that's
Dame.
an outside the box pick, and I also love that we had a Notre Dame fan on earlier. So
yeah, right before this, but he wasn't super confident in them either. So maybe that says a little something about it.
I coach at a very Catholic school over in Kettering. So I know a lot of Notre Dame fans there that are gonna hate
I know
that.
what school
And
you're talking about.
I went to high school with David Bruton, who went to play Notre Dame. It was actually Notre Dame's team captain in the 2000s, and he would kind of agree. So
okay,
I just don't think this is their year. I think they're trending in the right direction, but they got to get into a conference for me to have like really just confidence in them. I mean, you look, they lost to a MAC team, and he lost to a MAC team prior to that, the year before. So he doesn't have a great record when it comes to pressure games. As a head coach, he's still figuring it out. But they have a young squad over there. I think they're going to be great moving forward, but this is not their year.
That's a perfect outro because we talked about Notre Dame joining a conference this morning. If you're watching this, go check out that video with Mark and Philly because we said, hey, if you want a good seed in the college football playoff and you're Notre Dame, just go join the ACC. Like, you're guaranteed to be a top 3 team in the ACC year in and year out. Just go join a conference. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So,
And especially the ACC will cut them a nice deal where they can keep doing their NBC revenue and everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, SMU had to pay to get into the conference, and they're not even getting TV revenue. This is
and here
crazy.
they are in the playoff, right?
Yeah.
Well, Coach, hey, we appreciate you hopping on. Shout out to Ohio Sports Talk. Is there anything you want to plug before we get off here?
No, Ohio Sports Talk will be live tomorrow at 9:15 Eastern Standard Time on our regular channels on X, YouTube, and Facebook. Check us out. It'll be me going solo, but I've got some big announcements myself re-lined up. We might have a reoccurring guest going into Ohio State's big game with
There we go.
with Tennessee. So very excited to break that news tomorrow. Check us out, and I appreciate being on. I would love to be on with you guys again to discuss anything further, whether it's football, basketball, anything you guys got on the brain. My DM's always open, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you again.
For
We'll
sure.
have to
Thank you.
We'll have to get you on for if Ohio State makes the NCAA tournament. We'll have to get you on for a little March Madness segment.
I'm all for it, brother.
I love
Carter,
it.
big college basketball guy. Sometimes
Love it.
more college basketball than football. That's what the rumors are.
I'm a bigger Dayton fan because I'm from Dayton, so I'd love to maybe
Oh,
discuss a little bit of Flyers with you too.
The
Go Flyers.
Flyers are flying all right. They're not. We'll talk about that.
They've got a showdown with number 5 coming up, man.
I know.
There we
All right,
go.
Dylan, you better stop. We better stop the recording.
It's going to be
Let's not
college
go on.
basketball hour if I don't cut it off here. Thanks for watching. Follow us on X at CarterCast. Shout out SeatGeek. Use code CarterCast, $20 off your first purchase, $50 or more. Coach, thanks for coming on. Carter, the usual. Thanks.